Do you feel like you spend too much time solving a Sudoku puzzle and you wish that you were faster? I will show you my top tips and tricks to help you solve each puzzle faster, and my secret to know exactly when you should add marks to any puzzle. Click below if you want to give this puzzle a go. And with that, it's solving time. What can this green cell be? You might notice you have a 4 in column 7, 4 in column 9, and a 4 in row 8. So the only place a 4 can go here in the block 9, is right there. Green's friend, this is puzzle 3 from round 7 of the 2024 Sudoku Grand Prix. I think this is a perfect puzzle to answer the age-old Sudoku question, to mark or not to mark. That is the question I'm trying to answer today. And what would it take now to solve this cell right here? It's going to lead you up to my first tip. You might notice that you have a 6 coming down column 8, and you have a 6 cutting across row 5. So the 6s are limited to these two cells. I'm going to highlight that in blue. Since the 6s are limited in block 6 to column 7, they form a Sudoku pointing pair. And what that means is a 6 cannot be anywhere outside of the block in that column, because if you try to put a 6 here, you'd have no place to put a 6 here in block 6. And so we have a pointing pair here, and you have this 6, and these two 6s here, you can solve this cell now for a 6. And where that helps us is to figure out where a 5 goes in block 9. Because of this 5, a 5 can't be there, and because of this 5, cannot be there. So you can solve this cell for a 5 now. And I'll remove these marks because we're trying to solve that green cell. You'll notice now with these two 5s and this 5, the only place a 5 can go in block 6 is right here. And so what I just did is called digit restrictions. I looked for just where a 6 could go, then I looked for just where a 5 could go to get to this point. And that's my first tip. You want to start with digit restrictions because those are the quickest solves and usually the first solves that you can make by looking at a puzzle. Now I'm going to see if you can solve this cell over here using some digit restrictions. Let's look at the 2s. You might notice is you have a 2 here cutting across row 1, 2 coming up column 9, so we have a pointing pair of 2s here in block 3. And I do cover pointing pairs and the other most popular Sudoku strategies in my Sudoku solving guide. You can download it for free. Just click on the pinned comment below. This pointing pair of 2s, and with these 2s, the only place a 2 can be now in block 2 is right there. And now with these 2s and this 2, you can solve for a 2 right here. And if you look across row 9, where can a 2 go? It can't be here or here because of these 2s. And now it can't be here because of this 2, so you can solve this cell for a 2 using those digit restrictions. Now I'll come up to my second tip, which is going to build off the first tip of digit restrictions. In this second tip, it's a little bit easier to see when you have more digits filled out in a row, column, or block, like we have here in row 9. It's actually going to help us solve this cell right there. But this tip, it's a little bit harder to find these when you don't have as many digits filled out in a row, column, or block. So what can this cell be right here? You notice it can't be a 1, a 2, a 4, a 5, or a 6, a 7, 8, or 9. They all see and look into this cell. So this can only be a 3. And so what we did right there is we looked for a, I call it house restriction, because a Sudoku row, column, or block is called a house. And so you're looking, because of the restriction in this row and in the column, what could be right there? Well, it could only be a naked single 3. And how does that help us? Well, this 3 and this 3 means you can solve for 3 here in block 4. Those two 3s you can solve for 3 in block 6. And then you might notice with this 3 coming down, you have a pointing pair of 3s right here. You go with this 3 and these two 3s, solve for 3 right there. So we got almost all of the 3s using that house restriction. And we can kind of do the same thing if you look up at this cell right here. What can it be? And I'm looking for cells that have a lot of candidates and digits filled out in one of the houses, and then see if there's other different digits looking into it. Can't be a 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, or 6, 8 or a 9. This is a 7. It's a naked single 7. And all that's left now in column 8 is a 1, 2, or 3. And what I want to do is you go down and scan quickly. You'll notice there's a 2 and a 3 right here. So this cell has to be a 1. Can't solve the 2 and the 3 just yet, but we did use those house restrictions to solve those two cells, the 7 and that 3. I got a bonus trick for you. We can solve all 3 of the cells right here in block 6 using what I call my neat naked triple trick. You'll notice we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 here in block 6. All you need is a 6, 7, or 9. Well, 6 covers 2 of the cells, so 6 can't be in those 2 cells. And a 7 sees one of the same cells as a 6. Whenever you have that situation, you can solve all 3 cells. You know this cell can only be a 9. 6 can only go here, and so this last cell has to be a 7. And now I'm going to get to my third tip. And you may have noticed that I haven't even made any notation in this puzzle yet. So that secret, I'm getting to that as well. But before I reveal my third tip, which will help you reduce your solve time dramatically and take you to what I think is the next level of solving, and it involves these 2 cells, I want to hear from you. When do you start marking up a puzzle? You do it right at the beginning, or do you use some other clue on when to decide to start adding marks to that puzzle? Please drop it in the comments. The other viewers and I would love to hear from you. Your feedback will help us grow the best Sudoku community on YouTube. Okay, what can these 2 cells be? You notice you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9 in row 6. There can only be a 7 or an 8. See if you can solve both of the cells at the same time. And the answer is you can, because you know with this 8, that cell has to be the 8, meaning this has to be your 7. So we solved 2 cells at the same time. And with my neat naked triple trick, you solve 3 cells at the same time. And so that is my third tip. Try to solve more than 1 cell at a time when you can. This will reduce your solve time because you're going to be solving clumps of cells, not just individual cells when you do that. And I still got my secret I want to reveal to you. Plus, I have another tip for you. We're going to the next tip, and it's going to help us out here in block 7. Where can an 8 be here in the block? You'll notice with this 8, 8s are restricted to these 2 cells. And so we're just one step away, one piece of information away to figure out which one of these cells can be an 8. Because if you solve another digit right here, then that would be an 8. If you eliminate an 8 from one of these cells, then the other cell would have to be 8 as well. So we're one step, one piece away from solving that. So can we do that, get the information we need to solve where the 8 goes here in block 7? You might notice that the 8s act as a pointing pair since they're in the same row in the block. And you have these 2 8s. The only place an 8 can go now in block 8 is right here because of that pointing pair. And with these 2 8s, you can solve for an 8 right here in block 2. And then with this 8, solve for an 8 here in block 1. And these 2 8s, solve for an 8 up here in block 3. You might notice as soon as you solved an 8 in block 1, you could eliminate 8 as a possibility right there. So we know we can solve this other cell for an 8. And so my tip 4, I talk about it in some of my previous videos, is you want to look for one-step restrictions. You're looking for the cells that are just one piece away from getting it solved. And so I knew if I kept solving these 8s and eliminated it for one of these cells, I could solve this cell right away. When you start looking forward for those one-step restrictions, you can come back and solve cells that you have been working on. And so we did that. We can remove color from this 8, and we can get a little bit more solving in. And so you might notice here that we can do some more solving in column 2 now. All you need is a 5, 7, or a 9. Well, I got a 5, 7 right here. Looking at this cell, I got a 5 repeated. Right there, I can solve all 3. Now that's got to be your 5. The only place the 7 can go now is right there. This is going to be your 9. Okay, and now you want to see here using some more restrictions, and we're getting close to my secret. I can look right here in row 9 and see quickly that the only thing that's missing is a 1 and a 4, and I'll highlight that. And so I don't need to mark a 1 and 4 right here. I can use that along with the 3, 6, 7, 8 to go. All I need now is a 2, 5, and 9 in these 3 cells. And so with the 2's here, that's got to be a 2. That's got to be your 9. And then this is going to be your 5. And so this is the secret. This is what you've been waiting for. This is why marking doesn't really matter. I put that when I told you about that before. As long as you're getting solves, you don't need to bother putting marks in this puzzle. You can remember a few things with your working memory. It all depends on how easy the puzzle is as well. If you know how easy the puzzle is, it's easy. You can pretty much solve without marks. Adding marks is just going to slow you down because you're going to have to erase them whenever you make a solve. If you can just solve, as long as you don't get stuck, keep on solving, you don't need to add marks. For example, look over here in block 9. We got a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All we need is a 1, 2, or 3. Well, I got a 2, 3 right here, and the 2's repeated right there. Looking at a different cell, you can solve all 3. Need naked triple trick, that's got to be the 1, that's got to be 2, that's got to be the 3. Very quick solve. And then with this 1, that's a 1, that's a 9. See how that works? And now I know I don't have a 9 up here in block 1, so that's got to be the 9. All that stuff's a 4, 6, or 7. Neat naked triple trick. 4 and a 6 right here. 4 repeated, you can solve all 3. That's a 7. That's got to be the 4. That's got to be the 6. And as we're making these kinds of solves, you just kind of keep moving quickly through the puzzle. You start with the greatest restriction. You got 7 digits filled out in row 1. You need a 5 or a 9. I got a 9 right here. So that's a 9. That's a 5. And then I just need a 1, 7, and a 6. You might notice now that 6 and the 7 are right here. You got this 7 repeated and solve all 3. That's the 1. That's going to be 6. And the only place the 7 could go is right there. And now we can push over here to block 3. You want to start with the greatest restriction, this full house. Don't see a 9 in row 2, so that's got to be a 9. Nice, easy, neat naked triple trick. I'm just looking for a 1, 2, or 3. So I see 3 and a 1 right there, and 1 repeated. That's all I have to scan for. That's all you have to scan for. You know, that's the 2. That's got to be the 3. That's going to be your 1. And so we just keep making these kinds of solves. Like you take this 1 and go, that's got to be a 1. That's got to be a 4. I have a full house right here. I don't see a 6 in the column, so I'll solve that for a 6. Look right here. All I need is a 4 and a 7. I got my 7 here. So here's your 7 and here's your 4. All right. I don't see a 4 over here in block 4. So there's a 4 and I don't see a 1. So there's your 1. Pull on over to block 5. Solve that 4 or 1. And our last digit is a 5. Now see how far you can get in this next puzzle without marking. Thank you so much for watching.